Before we get to the new Supergirl movie, we're going back to the original 1984 film starring Helen Slater. It's a pretty weird movie, but hey, this is a female superhero movie that predates the 2000 superhero boom and even Tim Burton's Batman. It's got to be at least interesting. Welcome everyone to the Collector's Cut. I am Peter, and joining me as always is David.
The way to a woman's heart is through the elimination of her rivals.
This is a movie podcast, and we are doing a quick little season on the Collector's Cut. This episode and next episode are a little twofer, that being Supergirl, because the new Supergirl movie is out. In fact, it's already out by the time this goes out, I think, or about to come out. And next episode, which will be later this week, because this is a special extra episode on a Tuesday instead of our other sci-fi show, The Ace. So we're getting two Supergirls in 1 week, this one being the 1984 original film starring Helen Slater as Supergirl. We almost did this last year with the Superman movies, because we did all the Christopher Reeve Superman movies building up to the new one last year. And then it was like, oh wait, there's a Supergirl movie out next year. We'll just bundle that with the new one. That makes way more sense for comparison's sake and whatever else. So, of course, we will start spoiler-free if you happen to care about spoilers for 1984 Supergirl. But we'll give you a warning before we get to the spoilers. If you're enjoying the show on YouTube, hit the like button. Helps out a bunch if you do. And, of course, you can support everything over at Patreon and get some bonuses. But I'll tell you more about that at the end of the episode. So, I guess my first question, because I don't know if I remember if you've told me this. Have you seen this before now?
Nope.
Oh,
but
that's
I don't
interesting.
think I mentioned it. Yeah, no, this one, I was aware of it by reputation.
Sure.
And obviously, there's been a few callbacks in terms of like the Supergirl TV show, and I think even Smallville had like character, the Helen Slater showed up in both those shows.
As a cameo kind of thing, yeah.
Doing her own thing. But no, I never actually sat down and watched this particular movie.
That is very interesting to me, because I did grow up watching this. I had this taped off of TV when I was a kid, as well as most of the Superman movies, and saw it a bunch of times. And it's kind of interesting to hear what a first time's perspective is, because for me, I'm watching it this time and like there's lots of like just weird things in it. And I recognize they're weird, but I'm also so used to them being there that it just kind of feels like, of course they're here. Why would it be anything else? Yeah. Even though I know that they're weird. So I'm looking, when we get into spoilers and we actually start going through specifics, I'm very curious as to what you made of certain leaps in logic or extra superpowers or extra whatever else is thrown in there.
The leaps in logic, there were quite a few of those. There's quite a few things. There's only one, maybe two extra superpowers that I can think of that I was like, I'm sorry, what are we doing? What's happening here?
Yeah, it's not many, but there's one. But one of them she uses like 4 times, which is notable. So we'll get into all that stuff in a bit. You know, if you're not familiar with Supergirl is Superman's cousin. Typically, she also got launched from Krypton and was supposed to arrive at the same time and sort of help raise Clark when he was a baby, or Cal, I should say, from her perspective. However, you know, timey-wimey space nonsense happens. She arrives late. She's still a teenager, but Clark's already grown up. And we get Supergirl, and we go from there. Now, admittedly, I'm not sure exactly how much of that lore was like already in the books by 1984.
I feel like it had to be most all of it, because 1985 was Crisis and they wrote off Supergirl. Like they made him the last.
Yeah, but I'm wondering like if it had been altered to something that this movie was a bit more taking from. Now, this movie could just be a bunch of made up bullshit. It's entirely possible, but you know, that's typically the comic Kara Zor-El kind of lore. Here, things are a bit different. They have to kind of explain it in a different way to like get her into the picture. So we'll get into all that in spoilers. But you know,
it doesn't even to me feel like they had to explain it a different way. It was more so the idea they were like, we just don't want to have to try to explain all the timey-wimey stuff. Let's just whatever. Same time.
Yeah, but that's the most insane thing for you to say, because the other things that they just throw in here that they do not explain are way more weird than just not explaining the space-timey-wimey stuff, which at least if someone looked it up would say, oh, there is relativity, there's reasons, the black holes, whatever, things could have happened. We could roll with it.
I highly doubt that anyone in this production has ever been near a physics textbook since early high school.
That's fair. So yeah, I mean, we'll get into the cast and stuff in a minute, but I guess we should just need to start with the simple question. David, what did you think of Supergirl?
I think that there's something here. It's I don't know. It got me a little bit on the idea of the character being different from Superman, because I think that's kind of what I expected back here. They were like, okay, we hit it big with Superman and we're just going to do the same thing again. We're just going to take that, but now it's a female character so we can hit a different audience. I'm happy that they did change her up slightly, but I will say that I think character development for pretty much all the characters is a big miss. I think that there is so much where it's just, this character is I don't know, the sassy one. This character is the comic relief one. And by the time we get to the end of the movie, I'm like, who are these people? Why are there 12 of them when we can barely flesh out one? Beyond that, special effects, I think they're good when I look at them in terms of the Christopher Reeve movies. I think they fit in pretty well. I think in terms of what was capable in 1984, it's a bit rough. And then, plot-wise, I think it's my biggest detriment here in that I appreciate the idea that they were trying to do something new, but I don't know how much is going to be spoilering here. It just didn't really work. I think that the plot element is the biggest thing, where what we set up with is almost immediately put on the back burner for just whatever we want to do. And then at the very end, we come back and say, oh, right, there's a main thing I need to do. And then we get back to it. So now it's full of holes. It's full of whatever. But there is something here where there is charm to it. And I didn't find myself the whole way hating every moment of it. It just, I don't know. It had something.
I mean, that was a bit more positive than I thought maybe you'd hit me with that. It's, I mean, I have this kind of weird nostalgia for it because I grew up with it, but it's, I think from the perspective of a movie, it's kind of a mess for numerous reasons. Characters don't really have arcs, nothing really does. There's so many characters they set up that really have nothing to do for the back half of the movie, and they're just kind of there. It also, it starts off with hey, this is a movie about a MacGuffin, and sure, so it's a bit easy and lazy and whatever, but fine, lots of movies are about a MacGuffin. And then it kind of, it's the first ever female superhero movie, as far as I can tell, at least in terms of, big characters from, a DC or a Marvel. And the plot quickly becomes about Supergirl and the female villain both lusting after the same hunky man.
Dude, I was literally thinking, this is a how not to pass the Bechdel test 101. There is not a single scene in this movie. Yeah,
I was thinking, if it's not talking about the hunky man, who happens to be Ellis from Die Hard, if it's not talking about him, because Faye Dunaway, who plays the villain, she's got her kind of friend that she talks to about him. Kara's talking to her roommate at the school she's kind of snuck her way into. All this stuff. But there's lots of scenes of, two women speaking to each other, but they're almost always talking about either this hunky guy, or in some cases it's oh, hey, Jimmy Olsen's coming to visit. Again, we're talking about a man. It's constant throughout the entire thing. Is it possible there is one scene where the two women aren't talking about a man? It may be technically possible, but at a glance, I feel like every scene is, because if they're not talking about one of those characters, they're talking about Peter O'Toole's character, because that's something else the two villainous ladies talk about. So it's just that over and over again.
Yeah, there's a brief period where they're playing field hockey, and then there's a locker room scene afterwards, and I think that's the longest stretch. I think that maybe it's a 7-minute segment where it's hey, this is just the girls existing. They don't have to be existing in spite of a man.
You say that. I'm pretty sure that scene starts with one character turning and saying, "Hey, did you see that hot guy with the muscles?"
That's right, because he throws back the ball.
Yeah, so even that's still them talking about him.
All right, well, that was a background character at the very least who was saying that.
No, it wasn't.
It wasn't? Okay.
It was Lucy.
It was Lucy? All right.
It was Lucy.
Here's the thing. I had subtitles turned on for this. Just I always tend to, just so I can make sure I'm following along. And I don't know who did the subtitles for this or why, but anytime there was a new female character introduced, they would just put female number and then up the number by 1 if they didn't have a name. And by the end of the movie, I think we were at like female number 23. Like, there were just so many random background characters with speaking lines that were like, oh yeah, this thing's happening.
You could have just said woman for each one. You didn't have to specify we're on a new woman. It's different from that earlier scene. Yeah. You know. Anyway, so yeah, I have some weird nostalgia for this, but it is a bad movie. It unquestionably is a bad movie with things that make no sense. It's all because even the Christopher Reeve movies, right? There's like one or two little things where he seems to have this extra weird power for this little scene, and I'm not talking about 4 where it goes off the rails with that, right. Or 3 even. But like even 2 has like a sort of a little moment here or there of like that's a little bit weird and kind of its time, where they just sort of threw it in because they didn't care. This movie's
cellophane S. Yeah, it's the throwing of the crest.
This movie's full of that shit where it's like, this can just magically happen, and not even just like Supergirl's powers. The MacGuffin is just a MacGuffin that can do anything really.
it's weird because they do explain it kind of up top of what it is, but it is essentially a magic device, and we partner that with the idea that the villain is also magic. So whenever we say anything can happen, you can kind of just hand wave it away with a wizard did it, because like that's what is happening. Like she has these magic powers and she's just using them.
It's a witch because it's a woman, so not a wizard.
I'm just using the meme. A wizard did it.
But yeah, it is interesting though that you can sort of see a little bit of the parallels of what they tried to recreate here, compared to Superman, and it's because I noticed right away the opening titles start and Faye Dunaway's name's first. And that made me think of the fact that Marlon Brando and Gene Hackman got first spelling in Superman. And I'm like, they pulled the same trick here. They got an established actor who's got a big history and critical acclaim to play the villain. So this is our Gene Hackman as Faye Dunaway. You have her father figure, not her actual dad, not Zor-El, but her father figure is played by Peter O'Toole, who was in Lawrence of Arabia. So that's your Marlon Brando of this movie. So they tried to pull the same tricks and then cast an unknown as your superhero lead. So I'm like, okay, you can see the like them trying to strike the lightning in the bottle again with the same playbook.
Yeah, and I mean it feels that way. Like even down to like the villain's motivations, despite it eventually just spoiling down to a man. We do start this off with her just wistfully saying, I wish the whole world was mine. I wish I could rule everything. And it's like, wow, you've got a real estate plan you want to tell me about?
Yeah. I've heard that her ideas and like goals are bigger than even Lex Luthor's, to be honest, by the time we get into it later on. But I mean, like, there's positives to say, I think, right? I mean, don't get me wrong, like, there's no reason why it should have been any different, but they didn't screw up the suit. It looks good. It looks like Supergirl. It complements the Christopher Reeve Superman suit, perfectly. It's the female version of that. Good. Yep. Jerry Goldsmith's score is pretty good. It's, it's got a main theme that I was humming after I was done watching it. It plays often enough, and it's got a good bit of, pizzazz to it, and interesting tidbit is Jerry Goldsmith was originally supposed to compose Superman, and for whatever reason, maybe like clashing projects or whatever, had to pull out. And I remember this detail because there was a sit down between Richard Donner, director of Superman, and Christopher Nolan, who of course did Dark Knight trilogy. And it was on one of the Blu-rays, maybe the Dark Knight Rises Blu-ray, but it was like a sit down with them just talking about, hey, we both made superhero movies, let's talk about it. And there's just a moment where Donner tells this story about how we had Jerry Goldsmith, but he got, busy or scheduling conflict or whatever. And I just remember the really dry smirk that Nolan had in his face as he said the line, So you had to make do with John Williams.
I was gonna say, I'm just like, oh no, what a horrible turn of events that we got the Superman theme out of this. Wow.
But it's just kind of funny that they got him for Supergirl. Was like, oh hey, we got to get maybe a glimpse of the sort of thing he might have done. No, I mean, it wouldn't be the exact same, obviously. I'm sure we'd have scored it a little bit differently for Superman, but still, interesting little window into what could have been, regardless.
So it's existing in that same universe that what was it, Eric Stolt or whatever is Marty McFly. Just that same parallel timeline.
Yep. So there's that. It's. Yeah, I mean, I think the cast generally is solid. I have no problems with most of them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad there were a few names that I recognized. Obviously, they're not pulling from like A-tier Superman stuff, but like, characters of Lucy Lane, that's something that I think for most comic readers is going to be a little bit of a deeper pull, but it is a character.
And honestly, like I was even surprised, like the parents were Allura and Zor-El. Like part of me thought, oh, they're not even going to have those names right. Like I actually expected that to be wrong. Like, oh no, that's the names. They got that part.
It's like, hello, my name is Kara, daughter of Jane and John. It's like, excuse me?
I mean, the rest of this shit about the setup, I mean, maybe there's like one obscure Elseworld comic or something that this is all pulling from, but like I don't recognize any of it from the comics.
No, Peter O'Toole's character Zoltar, I did look him up in like comics wikis, like to see like, is this something that got adapted later? Was this something that was made for the movie? No, it was none of the above. This man exists in this movie and only this movie. No one ever touches Zoltar again.
It's funny though, because like, why not just make him Zor-El? Like, why not just have Zor-El be this figure? But
I have to assume it's because at this period they were still kind of hoping that like Supergirl could spin off into something, and they were like, we don't want to kill the father figure again. We don't want to like have the orphan idea quite yet here. But that's doubly weird if you're into the Supergirl lore, because Krypton is gone, including like her stuff as well. Like, this is not something where it should be sticking around.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's just a weird choice to add on this extra character when you could have just had that be the dad in the first place. But hey, regardless, you've got, like I said, we got Ellis from Die Hard as kind of the hunky man that people are chasing after. We got Nigel, which is Peter Cook's character, who is the love interest of Faye Dunaway's villain Selina. And he's also a teacher. Like he's both a teacher and like a relatively experienced black arts master.
Look, there's one connection. Like, you got some weird stuff of like connections crisscrossing here. Like, oh yeah, Jimmy Olsen just happens to be showing up randomly in this small town in Illinois. Like, yes, it's weird sometimes how the connections work. But the fact that this black arts master, who is the love interest to the main villainess, is also just the school's math teacher, you'd think it would come up. You'd think it would be a big deal here, and like that's how we would discover some crucial information. But no, he's just also the math teacher.
Well, that's the thing. You would say that's a big coincidence, but it's there because, that's going to give them a lead later on or something, or they're going to put two and two together and it'll mean something. And that was no pun intended because he's a math teacher, for the record. But no, it never matters that he's both. It's just like, I don't know, it almost feels like he should be, because that's how a movie script would have it, but it's not actually got a purpose in this movie. It's strange.
Yes.
But
I have no idea why they chose to do it. It feels like a drop plot line more than anything else. It feels like there was going to be some other thing that happened.
Yeah, the 3.5 hour director's cut, I'm sure, will come one day.
Speaking of which, I don't know what's going on my side of things, but when I go on to IMDb and I look at the running time of this movie, it's listed as an hour 45.
I don't know why you're obsessed with this. It's not that big a deal.
Well, I'm curious. Did we both manage to get like the director's cut or like the remastered cut or something that like adds in footage or something like that?
I'm
Okay.
positive. No, this is just the movie.
All right. Regardless, the version we watched is just over 2 hours long. But
yeah, and also my IMDb just says 2 hours 4 minutes. Like I got
and
the
that's
length
what's
I
driving
watched.
me insane. Like, why do I have this different number?
But it's clearly just a mistake, or it's referencing some TV cut or something. It's not like David. See if David like suspects even just a hint of like different run times. He starts panicking and asking, "Which version did you watch? Which version did I watch the same version?" And I'm like, I may actually want you to watch the different version just so we can compare them. But he gets really worried about it.
Yeah. Because I remember one time, God knows what episode, one time we did it and we didn't realize it till like 30 minutes in. We're like, wait, we're watching two totally different versions of this movie.
Yeah. There may be somewhere, in fact, you owe me, by the way, right? From Extra Reels, you owe me watching a longer cut of a bad movie at some point, because I watched the longer cut of one of Uwe Boll's movies without realizing it, and got very upset when I realized your version was only 90 minutes and mine was almost 2 hours. So there will be a reckoning, right?
All right.
When the day,
I'm happy with that.
Look, when the day comes, we have to do Lord of the Rings. You're watching the extended cuts.
I already watched the extended cuts, but fine, whatever.
You can watch the 4-hour version, and I'll slum it with the 3-hour version happily.
Slum it, yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. It's not. It obviously doesn't make a lot of sense as a movie. Some things are just random, or like there's not that good of a structure. Like it feels like it takes like 45 minutes before the plot even really starts to start, right? Because there's so much setup to do just from like getting Supergirl into the world, that to getting anything else going takes quite a while before you get there. But then on top of that, as a superhero movie, it's like there's not exactly a lot of like her doing super heroics, and the one big example in the middle of the movie is such a weird contrived sequence of like things happening that it never really feels like, oh, she showed up and everyone saw that Supergirl exists and they're all happy that there's a Supergirl now, or anything like that. It never becomes a thing.
It's spoilery of like specifically the fallout from the scene to the end of the movie, but like it's strange the choices that were made here, considering that this is a thing that in any other movie would be the like, in fact, I'm pretty sure much earlier on, like just as Kara's arriving, it says somewhere in there like Superman has gone off planet on a peacekeeping mission that is like many trillions of light years away. So it's just explaining Superman's not in the movie. But you would think that would be more of a thing of like, random blonde chick shows up, fills Superman's role. What's this all about?
Yeah, so the director of this is Jeannot Szwarc.
Sure.
I mean, I've never heard of course. He also directed Jaws 2, which is not particularly good. Although it's better than Jaws 3 and 4, so take that for what you will. He directed Somewhere in Time, which is what IMDb says he's the most known for. But yeah, I mean, he worked for a long time, don't get me wrong. Like, he was still doing TV episodes up until 2019, so he had a lengthy career, but not necessarily one where he's doing a bunch of movies that everyone's heard of. And then the writer of this, and I'm bringing up the writer in this case because the script is particularly nonsensical, and I think obviously the writer might be blamed for that, although maybe it has been chopped up enough that it's not all on him. But David Odell also wrote Masters of the Universe from 1987.
I saw that and I was like, oh boy, I can't wait to hear Pete's thoughts on that.
However, I mean, like, not a high bar, admittedly. I had way more fun watching this than I did Masters of the Universe.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. This one, at the very least, felt like, oh, maybe he actually picked up a Supergirl comic at some point. Not all of them. He didn't read all of it.
He read about half of one issue, maybe, and then said, I get it. I get the gist.
Yeah. In a ship, goes to Earth, whatever. How much more complicated can it be than Superman's backstory? Oh, wait, very? Oops.
Yeah, so, I mean, honestly, as far as, like, spoiler-free stuff goes, like, performances are perfectly fine. They're giving, like, some attempted gravitas to a bunch of dodgy material. But yeah, I mean, things happen with logic that makes very little sense. Magic powers that just kind of blossom out of nowhere. And just lots of things that just advance the plot for the sake of advancing the plot. The escalation and like everything that actually happens later on. Now, don't get me wrong. I do actually kind of like some of the weird swings it takes with some of the later stuff. And I do think that like a magic user, a sorceress, whatever you want to call her, is not a terrible idea for a villain for a Supergirl story. It's just a lot of the reasons and logics and the actual way it progresses just doesn't make a whole ton of sense. And there's lots of things that just feel very rushed just because they want to have her in this situation now. And I'm like, this feels like it should be taking like a whole act to get us to that point of like telling the story. But we're just, yeah, that's it. Snap your fingers, it's done. Off we go.
Yeah, I mean, certain things are very rushed, but at the same time, you also get like very long sweeping vista things of her flying over the Serengeti or whatever and like spending a lot of time with that because that's what we did in Superman and we want to do it again.
Yeah, and that stuff's good.
It's good, fair. Yeah, but I'm just saying from a pacing standpoint, it's like that you may not want to make the actual plot stuff the first things you cut.
Sure, but it doesn't do a lot of that. It has like one thing when she first starts flying where she does that. It's
I was thinking that, and then when she's handling Ethan towards like the middle second act.
That's a little bit, but it's not. I wouldn't say it takes that much time up on that.
All right, fair enough.
I think that's a bit. I will say there is, when we get into spoilers, there is like a section that I like. It's weird for me because the version I had taped off TV didn't have it. It was cut out, and sometimes if that happened, it was usually just for time. My sneaking suspicion, though, in this case, is that whenever it aired on TV in the UK in like the 90s when I taped it, it was probably on in the afternoon, and they cut this section because the implications were a little bit dark.
Yeah.
So,
to be clear, Supergirl wields a pair of nunchucks, and we all know how Britain feels about nunchucks.
Yes, no, not nunchucks. No. Darker than nunchucks, if you can believe it. Actual dark implications.
My God, practically murder just on screen.
But yeah, we should get into the movie proper though, because I feel like we're going to have a lot to say about a lot of segments of it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Spoilers for Supergirl. You have been warned. From the 1984 version. Here we go. So, well, first up, nice opening title sequence. It's good. It's not maybe quite in the same style as Superman, but it's one of those things where you stop and think about it, and you look at the texture of the letters. I know this sounds like really granular, but it's reflective and light's bouncing off it. Like for 1984, that's actually pretty impressive.
No, I was thinking that same thing as I was watching. I was like, oh, okay, all right. It's not doing the standard like Superman swoosh in and like the whatever, but it's impressive in its own right. It's doing its own thing.
They try to give it its own flair, like so a similar kind of in like vibe, but very different in terms of the actual visuals, and I appreciate that. Yeah. But then we go to Argo City, which exists, right? And you're like, okay, where does Argo City exist here? Exactly. And we go into Argo City, and Kara's like snooping around, and it's interesting seeing some more Kryptonian architecture and whatever. And it's like, okay. Mm-hmm. But as we get it described, when she stumbles on Zoltar, who's using his magic wand to like 3D print objects, which, by the way, he seems to know a lot about Earth because he says, I'm trying to build a tree like Earth. And I'm like, why do you know about Earth? That's a separate question, actually. We'll get back to that.
There's a lot of questions of how they know certain things, but yes.
Yes. Well, not only that, when he says like Earth, Kara immediately says, oh, well, like where my cousin went. I'm like, why do you know he's on Earth? But
yeah, they've just got a TV. They pick up radio broadcasts of like, oh, wow, Superman, cool.
But okay, so that's a thing, right? But here's the thing though. He says that they're not in outer space. The Argo City is in inner space, and it's alluded to without really any explanation as to how it works or how it happened or when did it separate from Krypton or whatever. But the Omegahedron, the MacGuffin of this movie, this orb that spins in your hand, which, to be fair, the spinning looked quite good. Obviously, they're just holding something between their fingers, like a base for it, and it can spin on top of that. But it always looks like it's spinning on their hand. I was like, okay, that looks cool. But he's like, yes, I used this to help create this, not create the city, but like put it into inner space, whatever inner space means. And this is not Joe Dante, Martin Short, Dennis Quaid inner space. We're talking about
inside the body of Martin Short. That's what this is.
That'd be an interesting twist later in the movie. But I mean, later on, it just kind of feels like they're in the ocean. It's almost like they've been shrunken down and put in somewhere in the Atlantic. That's what it feels like.
I mean, it does feel that way, and they don't do a good job of separating it. But my understanding is much like the Phantom Zone, this is a like separate dimension. This is a different like little pocket dimension that managed to keep Argo City safe.
That does raise some questions though later, but that's fine as an idea up front. But yeah, so a comedy of errors then happens, which leads to Kara leaving Argo City. So basically, Allura, Kara's mother, shows up and starts talking to Zoltar, and Zoltar's basically talking about how he wants to leave and go to Venus or some shit.
He's specifically like this little sphere thing, the Omegahedron. He's not supposed to have it. And I love that the like opening of this scene is like, oh, that's the Omegahedron. You shouldn't have that. And he's like, oh, it's fine. I just borrowed it. It's no big deal. No problem, whatever. And then by the end of the scene, you find out that this thing is literally the lifeblood of the entire city. And if anything happens to it, everyone will die.
Which makes him seem like a selfish prick once you realize how important it was. But it's also kind of wild that this entire city's existence relies on this one device, this baseball-sized ball that just sits there. Like everything has to uses that to function, and it's like, okay, well that's kind of weird. And it made me think bizarrely of, have you ever watched the IT Crowd? Have you heard of that?
I've heard of it. I've never sat down and watched a full episode.
So there's an episode where the two nerdy guys who do all the IT work, right, speak to like Jen, the third character, and they've got this cube, and they lie to her and say it's the internet. And she believes that the entire internet comes from this cube. And that's what this made me think of. The idea that something so important exists only in this little object.
Yeah. No, that's fair. That's reasonable. I mean, it's true, though, because that's literally the entire point of this whole scene is just, he's not supposed to have this. When Allura comes up and starts chatting with him, he, like, kicks it over to Kara, and it's like, hey, hide this. Don't let her see it.
Yeah.
And then she starts dicking around with it.
But well, he also gave her the magic wand thing that he basically 3D prints and carves anything he can imagine out of. That's what he built the city with, I guess. And she is like, oh, I'm going to draw like a dragonfly type thing.
Dragonfly,
right?
Wee.
But then apparently when you hold the ball, the Omegahedron close to the magic wand, it'll give life to the thing that you've drawn with the wand. So it becomes a real flying object, and it whooshes around a bit. And then, would you believe it? It flies through the exterior of the city and creates a hole, and everyone starts getting sucked out. And this is where Zor-El shows up because he sees Kara almost getting sucked out of a hole. And Zoltar goes up with the wand, patches up the hole. But unfortunately, the Omegahedron went through it and is now lost to inner space. And everyone's like, well, I say everyone. Actually, this is one of my critiques of the scene, actually. One of my complaints about the reaction to this is that only Zor-El and Allura say to him, hey, you've just doomed us all to death, you idiot. And I'm like, why isn't everyone in Argo City, like, freaking out right now?
Here's the thing. I am, like, 70-30 split on this is Zoltar's fault. And then also, like, it's a little bit Kara's fault. Like, she knows how important this thing is. It's not something to just be trifled around with, and maybe make it about Dragonfly was not the smartest idea with it. However,
well, yeah, on that point, though, I will say Zoltar hands her the wand and says, "Go wild." He literally says, "Go and be creative." So I'm going to say it's mostly on him. He handed effectively a child, even though what age is Kara here? I mean, obviously the actress is like 20, but like.
Yeah, she feels like she's, 16, 17, somewhere in that range. But like even in this opening sequence, she feels a little bit more childlike than that.
Yes.
But yeah, so that sequence happens, and like, yeah, I think it's mostly Zoltar's fault. But I love Zor-El's like, you've doomed us, you've killed us all. And Zoltar's like, it's cool, it's fine. I will go out and look for it because we've got a little, whatever it's called, binary chute, I think they call it. It's just an orb. It's just a ship.
It's just a ship.
He's like,
an orb shape.
I'll hop in, and it should be able to survive everything. And as they're talking, Kara's like, ooh, what's this thing? And she just jumps into the ship, and it takes off.
There's almost a way to sell this, right? If they just, a slight little like tweak to her facial expressions would have done it, is she's guilty because she feels responsible. So she's going to take the initiative, even though she shouldn't, to go be the one that looks for it herself. And that's why she goes, right? Even though maybe sending someone who knows what a tree is would be a better fit for sending someone to Earth.
Yes. But no, I just love this sequence because it's not only the fact that she does it without anybody noticing, and maybe, you know, it's her trying to take the initiative, whatever, but the fact that she does it pretty much as her father is saying, like, what? Slowly, our lights will blink out over the next few days. The air will become too thin to breathe. And then she gets in the ship, and I just imagine her saying, like, I'm not going to do that. Bye. And just everyone else is left to die.
But it gives her a mission to go and get the Omegahedron. So she's in the ball. It's flying through. It actually is very inner space, or very fantastic voyage, with all the bubbly water around the orb, and she's looking and oohing and ahhing at it and all that. But this is actually the first time of several times in this movie where her outfit just magically changes, and there's no getting the Supergirl outfit. There's no like, oh, this is my family's outfit. Just that's why obviously Superman has it. It just magically appears around her before she emerges from the orb and into, you know, out of the lake, right? And that's her first moment on Earth. It just appears. And this is a recurring thing later on where she sees the school uniforms and she walks past a tree and it changes like halfway. Then she walks past the other tree and it changes half again. It happens multiple times
It's a great
throughout.
visual trick. I like the visual trick of it. It just doesn't make any sense from a character point of view.
Yeah.
Of like, wait, why is this happening?
It's not one of her superpowers. And not even that. Like, okay, maybe you could explain some Krypton baloney here to explain this first one. But she literally materializes one of this school's uniforms out of thin air to disguise as one of the students later on. That's what happens.
And becomes a brunette. Which, in fairness, is also pulled from the comics, where Linda Danvers, whatever she's being called here, is a brunette, and then Supergirl is blonde to help extra mask the identity.
Yeah, that's what she's got instead of glasses as the hair change. Yeah. But the idea that it physically changes the color of the hair with her powers, I'm sure that has happened in some cheesy old comics, but there's a reason why it was left behind and she doesn't do that anymore.
Right.
So, but
yeah.
Yes. Anyway, so, you know, her coming out of the water and like oohing and ahhing at the rocks and the flowers. Although I do have to, one of the first things with the powers that really made me raise an eyebrow was she uses her heat vision on like a flower that's sort of like not bloomed yet, and it makes it bloom. And I thought, no, the flower should just be dead. It should be cremated. There should be nothing left. What are you talking about?
She's still powering up in the yellow sun. It's just a warm summer day.
But yeah, she dances around. I appreciate kind of the almost like aerial ballet-ness of it to sort of separate it a little bit from Superman. And, you know, then the main theme kicks in and she swooshes off, hand in the water, she swims past the lake, and, you know, she flies over some horses, which I always laughed at, not at this movie, but I laughed when Man of Steel came out because Zack Snyder basically repeated that shot with his first flying scene in Man of Steel, and I thought that was really funny. I was like, that's in the Supergirl first, you hack.
Well, luckily that's the most hacky thing that Zack Snyder ever did. So,
yes.
The only thing before we move too far on that I did want to say, back on Argo City, just after Supergirl takes off, is Peter O'Toole's like, "Oh damn, well, guess you got to put me in the Phantom Zone. Yeah, I got to go to the Phantom Zone now. I messed up. Got to send me to jail."
And I'm like, technically that means you're going to survive, though, and everyone else is going to die.
Everybody's just like, oh no, I gotta live. Dang it.
Maybe we should all just go to the Phantom Zone. That seems like a...
No. The Phantom Zone sucks. You don't want to go to the Phantom Zone. But don't worry, I'll take the hit.
But David, all that squirt. There's so much squirt to enjoy in the Phantom Zone.
So much squirt.
Oh yeah, we'll explain that later.
don't say that to a borderline teenage girl, please.
All right. So the other thing, of course, that happens around here is the Omegahedron lands in the picnic of one Faye Dunaway, Selena, and what was his name? Nigel. Of course he's Nigel. He's got a very English accent, so of course his name's Nigel.
Yeah. Absolutely. I love the fact that before the Omegahedron even lands, before we know anything about these characters, like the first line out of Selena's mouth at this seemingly normal-ass picnic is, "Why don't I rule the entire world yet?" And not just like, "Oh, it's only Tuesday, whatever."
Yeah, well, basically, it turns out that she wants to be like a proper witch and get into the dark arts, and he's experienced, but she's brand new to it, and she's not really accomplished anything yet. And the Omegahedron, once it lands, she picks it up and immediately feels power, and it basically just lets her do magic stuff, right? Like, she has power now that all comes from the Omegahedron, even though she also does use actual spells and like potions and incantations from actual magic books, but the Omegahedron's kind of fueling it all. I guess maybe they're saying you need like a magical source of energy that fuels all your magic, and that's what it's doing, I guess.
Well, that's kind of what I thought the thing was when they were explaining the Omegahedron back on Krypton was, or Argo City, I should say, is it's basically the thing that allows your imagination to make things real. Like,
yes,
it's whatever magic that is, and that's what allowed her dragonfly to come to life. It's as long as Selena believes that the magic should work, and she's using the Omegahedron, it will work.
Yeah. But it's funny though, because I'm like, you're wasting a lot of time doing all this book research and saying a bunch of spells. You could literally just wave your hand and it'll just just do it. But okay, all right.
Yeah, but she has to think like, oh, it has to work this way.
Even with those very loose rules though, there's still some leaps that happen with this thing's power, which we'll get to. But it's like, okay, she gets this orb, but she can tell it's powerful, and she just immediately says, all right, Nigel, we're breaking up, I'm leaving. And he's like, aha, but I've got the car keys, you can't abandon me. And this is when we hear on the radio that Superman's in a different galaxy doing some peacekeeping mission of some kind. I'm like, oh, okay, they explain why he's not around. Fair enough.
I like to imagine this is the break between Superman 2 and Superman Returns, where he went off to Krypton and did whatever.
I mean, weirdly, that would fit logically. It came out between 3 and 4, though, just for the sake of the timeline. But yeah, I see what you're saying, though. It sounds kind of similar to what they said. and those. So she's got the orb, right? She pisses off with that. Nigel's upset, and it's like, okay, right, we've established these characters, and we're going to follow Supergirl.
We also get the lackey, whoever you want to call Bianca, I think her name is.
Was it Bianca? It was Bianca, yeah.
Yeah, Bianca it's basically just the I'm blanking on Lex Luthor's sidekick name.
It's not well, I see why you're saying that, but she's nothing like Otis, because she's not like a dumb character. You know, like
but she's like the snarky one who's keeping like the main one on her toes, sort of thing.
If anything, she's more like her Tessmacher than she is an Otis, just in terms of her character personality, not so much like what she ends up doing later on or anything like that.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, they set up her. We also set up that Selena and her friend live in an old amusement park, and in particular the ghost house. They've turned that into a living space.
Yeah, Bianca comes in saying like, hey, I know we need some cash, so if we start a coven, we can charge $5 a head or something like that. And it just sounds like, you know, they're on the very low level cons sort of thing of trying to like just make some quick cash. But Faye Dunaway is now 100% drinking the Kool-Aid, and she puts the Omegahedron into this tiny little container that's only just big enough to hold it. Yes. And that becomes important throughout the rest of the movie.
And notably, it looks like a sort of demonic kind of dog thing, right?
Yeah.
And that's relevant because even before anything else happens, there's a moment a little bit later when you see like this almost ghostly image of this demon dog like behind her, is almost as if a demon from hell's actually like showing up because she's got too much power or something. But I think
it's Nigel. Nigel's like, take a look at this, and he shows the vision. She's like, what the hell is that? And she's like, that's your unchecked ambitions, you better watch yourself, bitch.
So Supergirl like goes flying when she comes out, and we see her flying over a city, and she lands in some big city. I don't know if they specify which one.
I'm going to assume National City, because why not?
Sure. I mean, she goes to Midvale. That's what the private school is that she goes to. So hey, they're using some names from the books, but this is the scene that wasn't in my TV edit that I had on tape, right?
Okay, that makes sense.
Right? Yeah. Because two guys in a big truck stop and come out and see her there, and she asks them, you know, oh, where am I? And they're like, oh, this is Lover's Lane. Also, one of these two guys is the neighbor from Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Just
is he?
Interesting.
I didn't even notice.
Yeah, that's one of them. And they just immediately start getting, I mean, rapey. I'll just say it. They get rapey.
Yeah. No, and it's so weird because, like, yeah, okay, it's bad when they see this young blonde girl just in the middle of this city, and they start doing things. But like, she's wearing the Superman costume, and then she says, "Oh yeah, Superman, he's my cousin," and all that stuff. And they're just like, "Oh, that's." But then they keep going, and I'm like, all right, maybe they think she's just crazy because like nobody knows Superman has a cousin. That's fine. Maybe they think that she's just a crazy person. But then as they start taking things further, she demonstrates her strength. She like lifts one of them up by his face and like throws him into a fence. And the other one still keeps going. Like, this is the point where you back off, man, because she's just proven herself.
You know what? I oddly think this is believable, just because I do buy that these guys might be this stupid and not get the hint. Well,
yeah.
You know, like,
yeah,
because he's trying to lift up her skirt and she's like getting uncomfortable and saying, "Don't do that." Now, obviously, we know she's in no danger because she can flatten them like a bug beneath her feet if she wants to. But it's still weirdly dark for what is your Supergirl movie, you know?
Yeah, I feel like this is, we got the flight powers and, I think she crushed a rock at the river's bend or something like that. I feel like this may be trying to set up, she's got, more strength, stuff like that, showing off her powers a bit more. But also, B, it feels like they might be trying to set up a little bit of, like, she also fights for like justice. She's also like fighting against crime or whatever, despite the fact that never really comes up later on.
Oh sure, it's just such a strangely dark, especially since like she has like you pointed out, she's kind of played a little bit younger and more naive than she should maybe be for the age she is. So she comes across very innocent and naive and childlike. When she's answering and asking questions here, she sounds like she's younger than she is. So seeing these guys make their eyes at her and like try and like lift up her skirt just feels really uncomfortable. Even though she's just going to flatten them because she can, right? She's in no danger, but it still feels really weird. So it's because it'd be one thing like because I could imagine like in the new Supergirl, right, which obviously we have not seen yet, but I could imagine that version of Supergirl, like someone making a cat call and her just turning around and like lighting her eyes up red as if piss off before I burn your face off. Like I can picture that scene in my head, and I think it would fit in the context. But this felt so predatory because of how naive she kind of is that if she didn't have superpowers, this would have ended very badly, and that was uncomfortable. So
yeah, no, absolutely. As it was happening, I was thinking, okay, is this going to be the tone of the movie where like we have this young naive girl who has these extraordinary powers have to fighting against like a dark and like gritty world sort of thing? No, not really. No. It's just this scene, but yeah, it's weird.
Just this one. And it's just one of those weird examples. But we did Last Action Hero. Oh, no, we didn't do Last Action Hero. We'll do that someday. Nope. I watched that on stream and I remember explaining this story. There was a scene in that was cut out of the version I had taped off TV as a kid. So there's just a few movies where like one scene was missing that they cut out. Now, in that movie's case, I think it may have just been for time slot reasons so they could fit it into whatever the block was. But with this one, I'm going to assume it aired at like 4 p.m. in the afternoon, and they wanted to remove the oddly dark scene from an otherwise kid-friendly experience.
Wouldn't surprise me.
So we get that scene, and then she wakes up like the next day in like a forest or whatever near the private school. I guess the other MacGuffin thing we should just briefly explain is that she has like a sort of wristband that lights up when the omegahedron's nearby.
Yeah.
Because reasons.
It's literally just at some point in the movie they realize, wait a minute, how do we get her where she needs to be? Oh, let's just give her a bracelet that plays hot and cold, like whatever. Yeah.
So she sees one of the girls from the school come and get the softball that went into the woods. And she goes over to the tree line and she watches these girls play softball. And she's way more encouraged by these humans because, hey, they seem nice and they're playing a game and
they got teamwork. They got camaraderie.
Yeah, they're happy, even though some of them turn out to be cruel bitches, as we find out in a few scenes' time.
Such a strange segment. Yeah. Like, again, in terms of not coming up again.
Yeah. It's because that's the weird thing about this section of the movie, is that it feels like it's setting up a lot of things that are going to be important. Like, this school setting is going to be important going forward, but it's only important for 10 minutes, and then it's barely an afterthought for the rest of the movie.
Yeah, I mean, if we go back to Superman, like the original one, I feel like this is supposed to be representative of like the Smallville sort of thing of saying like, let's talk about the origin. How does she get and build a life here on Earth and all that stuff? And that'd be fine if we were, sticking around, if we were building a life here and doing whatever. But by the time the movie ends, it's like, nah, she's gone. None of this matters. It doesn't. All of this stuff is just for the sake of. I guess she forgot she was going after the Omegahedron and just wanted to play pretend of being a human girl for a while.
Yeah, but she sees these people, she sees the outfits, so she magically makes one for herself behind a tree, because she can do that, apparently. Good job, movie. It reveals that the villain's boyfriend, well, ex-boyfriend now, I guess, Nigel, works here as the math teacher, because Kara shows up to the principal to try and, like, bluff her way into the school, and he comes in complaining about the little monsters that he teaches. So she uses her super speed to write herself a reference from Clark Kent from the Daily Planet, which...
All right, let's take a break right there for a second.
Yeah, how does she know any of that?
Right. Look, I can understand the idea of like, oh yeah, no, the tales of Superman have managed to pierce our interdimensional whatever magenta. And like, we all know that Superman landed on Earth. Fine. Okay, I don't like it, but I'll take it. Nobody knows Superman is Clark Kent. How do you have this information?
We'll see if, like... My problem is not that she knows Superman is Clark Kent, it's that she knows who he is at all, right? I could buy that if she somehow knows that Superman exists, that she would also know he's Clark Kent. But again, how does she have any of that information? But no, she knows he works at the Daily Planet. She knows what his alias is to sort of use that in reference. And then, you know, the principal's impressed. He's like, oh, Clark Kent at the Daily Planet. Well, I've heard of him. That's very impressive. In fact, I'm going to roommate you with someone who's related to someone who works at the Daily Planet. Introducing Lucy Lane. Actually, there's a funny little bit here where he's taking her to her dorm room, right? Because this is a private high school. Where they all live here, like a boarding school, and basically a bunch of the teenage girls, now you don't see anything obviously because it's not that type of movie, but they're all walking about in their towels, like out of the shower, and there's like implied nudity behind like a wall or whatever, and like one of the girls sees the principal coming up the stairs and screams and says, man on floor, and they all just scatter and disappear out of their rooms.
I like that bit. It gives a little bit of character to this dorm and like the other students in terms of what they're doing instead of just students.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, I think the principal was a mildly entertaining character for his small, 2 minutes of screen time.
I kept on expecting, because, comics-wise, she gets adopted by the Danvers. Like, that's at the end. This is Principal Danvers. And I'm like, oh, he's clearly going to take such a shine to her. Or like, they even get a bit in here where he's like, oh, you're an orphan. But no, he's just here for like 2 scenes and then he's gone.
Yeah, that's actually a weird bit when after he's done introducing to Lucy, on his way out of the room, he's like, oh, by the way, she's an orphan, but don't let that mean you're more sympathetic towards her.
I want you to haze the hell out of her.
Yeah, but he introduces them. She's a little bit, oh, I've got a roommate now. I was happy not having a roommate, but I guess I've got a roommate. There is a nice moment here though, where she's like, oh, so you work, or your cousin's at the Daily Planet. Who is it? And she's like, oh, Clark Kent. And she's like, really, Clark Kent? Oh, my sister definitely knows him. My sister's Lois Lane, and yada. And so I was like, okay. And then there's the fun moment where the poster's revealed, where it follows Kara, like her eyes catch something on the wall. We go behind her head with the camera, and as it reveals the poster of Superman, da, 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 and I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm always going to pop for the John Williams theme being inserted when he's referenced. Okay, I can't not smell at it. All right.
Yeah, I do wonder. There's just some trivia on this that before filming started, it was at least somewhere in production that Christopher Reeve was going to make.
Yeah, I knew this too. Yeah, and it was actually I think he decided that maybe it'd be better for the movie to not like have it like for the sake of like let it breathe on its own and not have it bogged down and
I think that the entirety of superhero cinema after the fact would disagree, but I'm curious if it would have been here or if it would have been like an ending stinger sort of thing.
Oh,
like
I don't know.
After she completed all of her tasks or whatever, Superman's just like, you did good today.
Or yeah, maybe he just gets back from space at the end and they have like a quick, smudge. Do you know what? This would have been a really nice moment. Like, I mean, I actually already kind of liked the moment, but it would have been even better if she didn't know her cousin was here and she didn't know about Superman and she sees this poster of him wearing that symbol and is like,
yeah,
who is that? cue the Superman music, and then Lucy explains who Superman is, and she suddenly understands and wants to seek him out. I mean, the plot would have to be very different after that point because she'd go looking for him. But, you know, like, this moment would be so cool if this was the moment she realized, shit, my cousin's on Earth. Yeah. Oh, boy.
I just looking at the thing saying, like, that's the House of L. Like, that's our house crest. Who is this man? Oh, is Superman. And she's just like, okay, I need all the information, please.
Yeah, obviously the coincidence here that she's rooming with Lucy Lane, Lois Lane's sister, is, you know, it is what it is, right?
Yeah.
They just have to roll with it. But, hey, you know, so she looks out for her a little bit for the brief amount of time they actually spend together between, like, they're playing hockey, like field hockey outside, and, like, the bully girls try and, like, kill Lucy with the ball.
But these bullies come out of nowhere, and I'm like, okay, fine. You want to have a bully character. You want to show, like, oh, she's still standing up for, like, social justice and, like, her friends and all that. Fine. But we get this sequence of the bullies are, like, whispering to each other, just like, hey, go ahead and, like, hit that ball as hard as you can at Lucy. Take her out for good. And then Kara jumps in the way and, like, stops it. And it's just, to be clear, she is the Woman of Steel.
Yep.
I don't know how hard this ball was hit, but it literally explodes upon impact of hitting her body, and no one thinks, like, that's insane. And then as soon as that scene's done, I guess the bullies are still just like, oh, well, we're going to show them. And so as everyone else is taking a shower, they get into the boiler rooms behind, and they start messing with the water pipes in order to scald them. They turn off all the cold water so that it's just the boiling hot water on them.
That's their plan. And it's worth mentioning, the second bully, the henchman bully, if you will, is like, hey, wouldn't it be safer and still funny to just make it cold so they all scream and, like, they've been, you know, hit with cold water? You know, this seems like it might actually, you know, scold them and be dangerous. And
they might, like, actually lose some skin here.
And the bully's like, that suits them well. They deserve it. Yeah. It's fine. I did appreciate that they tried to visualize the super hearing here. We get, like, a little sound wave kind of effect, like, going into her ear. I was like, oh, that's all right. That's fine.
I was okay with that. I can't remember if it was here later on, but they did an X-ray vision.
They did it a couple times, yeah. It's here because Selena and her friend are in a car outside, and it's like her bracelet starts going off because of they've got the omegahedron, so she looks outside.
Well, I just remember there was one bit when she's using it. They show, like, the beam. They show a beam coming out of her eyes, and then in the beam is, like, the image of what she's seeing.
Yes.
And that was a weird choice to me. I've never seen that since.
It's weird. I think it gets the point across. I don't know if I like it, but it's like it made sense.
I understand that this isn't her heat vision, and therefore I'm defaulting to the other one, but I'm curious, if I didn't know about X-ray or telescopic vision or whatever being a power, would I have picked up on that? Yeah.
And the sound waves were kind of a similar beam getting into her ear as well, so I guess that was like a sort of unified, like, oh, we're going to show all of our powers that are perception based the same way kind of thing. So yeah, it's like, okay,
I'm all right with that.
That's fine. But
the only other scene that we kind of skipped over was there was the math scene. Oh wait, but we didn't even finish that scene. Sorry, just to finish up the shower scene. Linda, Kara, she heat visions the pipes that causes it to burst on the girls. They're not scalding. They're not dead. But they run out humiliated from the locker room saying, "We'll get you," and then they don't.
Yeah, we never see them again.
Just gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the only other thing was there was a math sequence.
Well, this is
Nigel.
This is the other random superpower she seems to get that Superman and Supergirl do not have, which is genius intelligence that they don't even like understand. Like she just knows the end of this equation without even thinking about it, and it's just a superpower. Okay.
Yeah, the only explanation we get is that she's being escorted out of the room by Lucy. Lucy's like, how'd you do that? She's like, oh, it's just 6-dimensional geometry. I could never get it before, but now, and then that's it. She's like, that's all we get.
Yes. I mean, maybe there is some Silver Age comics that say Superman's smarter because of his powers, but I don't like that.
No, they're absolutely, that's tons of Silver Age stuff. It's like, no, he's the Superman. Anything you think he can do, he can do.
Yeah, I want some limitations, right? I want a power set that makes sense and has rules, and therefore you can put blocks in place. You can, have it be consistent.
Right.
Because there's no consistency here. It's just a bunch of random nonsense, pretty much.
All magic. A wizard did it.
And not all of it's even her powers. Sometimes it's just the way physics does things as a result of her powers that just don't make any sense. But more on that later. So, while this is also going on, the villains are outside in the car, and they see Ellis from Die Hard, and they think, damn, I wonder if he's got a Rolex. And they're like, oh, I like a bit of him. And Selina decides that she wants him and that she's going to do a love spell. And that's basically like the start of her motivation. That's what it's about now, is getting the hunky man.
Yeah. And like, it's so much more of the movie. But I love the fact that the next time we cut to them, she's putting together the love spell. And again, she's figuring out her powers. She hasn't, like, we're building. It's an incline here in terms of what she does. But this is the most pathetic love spell I've ever seen in my entire life. Not in terms of, like, potency. Like, it works, and it works hard for what it does. But she's like, oh, you have to trap a spider into, like, a walnut shell and then get him to drink some water. And then it'll last for as long as the spider's in the shell or 24 hours. And I'm like, that's it? This isn't seducing a man to love you forever. This is 24 hours or when a spider gets out.
Yeah, she also pours something in the drink, because basically she hires him, because he's a gardener or landscaper, whatever you want to call him. So she hires him despite the fact that she clearly has no garden around this haunted house amusement that she now lives in, and invites him in. She does kind of the seductive, like, oh, I'm going to put my leg up with a stocking and be all kind of cougar-esque with him. And it's like, okay, all right. So she's making all these moves, and I guess the thing that surprises me is, one, he's not even remotely interested, right? Which is fair enough. Maybe he just wouldn't be. But it doesn't work in terms of like normal attraction until the love spell is given to him. But two, it's just how dumb his character is. Like, he is a doofus where it sounds like he's so unsure of every single thing he's asked, even when he's asked, would you like something to drink? And he's like, huh? Yeah, oh yeah, I don't mind if I do. Like, I'm like, it feels like he's doing like a Rocky Balboa like type take on his character.
I don't know. I mean, I think he is supposed to be the dumb, hunky character, and that's fine to have if he's just here for this bit. But he is a major player in this movie. Yeah,
well, that's my thing, is if he's going to actually be potentially a love interest for Supergirl, then maybe have him be not a moron. just an idea.
No, I would say so. But no, the way the spell works is that I guess he passes out for a little bit first, and when he comes to, the first woman that he sees is the one that he'll fall in love with. And as she's putting the spell on him, Nigel shows up at the door, and basically, for some reason, he's wearing this weird jacket, and they like call attention to the fact of like, what a weird jacket you're wearing.
Both of them do, like, because Bianca answers the door first, like, what's with the weird jacket? And then Slater shows up, you're here to try and woo me in this jacket? And he's like, it's a long weekend, I'm letting my hair down, this is a leisure jacket. What does that mean?
All right. But as Nigel's there, he's basically just saying, like, look, I'm trying to warn you, I saw Supergirl flying around before. It looks like a Superman powered character, so you might want to be on the up and up on that. And during all this,
he doesn't call her Supergirl, because Faye Dunaway is the first one who actually calls her that when she sees her later. Yeah,
but he's saying, like, oh, it was blue and red and it had powers. Hunky guy, whose name is Ethan, as we get to know him better.
Ellis from Die Hard.
He stumbles his way out of the building. They do a whole... I love this bit where it's like, Nigel is just in the middle of talking, and then we do a hard cut to Ethan, like warped footage, stumbling his way through this haunted house. There's crazy, creepy music and like scary laughter playing, and then hard cut back to Nigel going like, so yeah, I just want to let you know that. And I'm like, what?
Yeah, he's basically having like a surreal acid trip where he's stumbling around and eventually gets outside, which reminds me, we actually also glossed over a scene, which is basically Selena had learned a few party tricks with the Omegahedron, where she like gets kind of jealous because Nigel flirts with another woman, and she makes her eat a scorpion by turning her food into a scorpion, and then flips her upside down telekinetically and makes her spin around. And Nigel's like, Selena, stop that, come after me, she did nothing wrong. And I'm like, is he supposed to be like almost likable for trying to stick up for this innocent victim? Because it's kind of a weird turn, because he's very unlikable in every other respect.
Yeah, I don't think he's supposed to be likable, but I do think he's supposed to be the character that like allows us. It's Tessmacher at the end of like that bit where she like goes to Superman and it's like, oh, he's crossed the line. You got to stop Superman.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to say, but so as this is all going on, Kara has basically been flying around looking for the Megahedron, had not much luck. She arrives in the town of Midvale, and Lucy had invited her to hang out for the long weekend because she had nowhere to go. Which, by the way, in that scene where they're getting ready to leave for the long weekend, there's a weird comedy bit where Kara starts looking at one of Lucy's bras and is clearly confused by this contraption, and she's like, we don't have these in Argo City. And she puts it on over the top of her outfit, and she just kind of looks, and then she starts stuffing the bra with like socks or whatever. And I'm like, are you just imagining having, you have boobs. You actually already have boobs.
I love the sequence because, like, again, you think it's going to be this thing where it's like, oh, we're playing up the fish out of water or whatever, and like characters are noticing. Lucy goes, what are you doing? She goes, nothing. And then it's never mentioned again. Never. It's never, like, Lucy's still just like, nah, you're cool. We like you. You're fun to have around.
It's so, the only thing I can think of they're trying to do, let's take just maybe like a bunch of men wrote this and thought this would be weirdly funny, and it's just kind of a dumb sexist joke. My only guess is that because people say Superman wears his underwear on the outside, this was meant to be like them doing a joke about the female version of that with a bra on the outside. That's the only thing that my brain can try and make sense of it with.
I see it. I can get where you're coming from, but it feels so esoteric that I'm like, no, that can't be it.
Yeah, but how much of this movie makes sense, though, is the thing.
I mean, yeah, but like, there's a difference between a leap in a logic and like in the plot, and a leap in the logic with the writer themselves of like, why am I doing this? I just did a bunch of cocaine. That's why.
I mean, he probably did, but that's not the point here. So she runs into them, so our product placement portion of the movie kicks in here because Jimmy Olsen's come to visit Lucy. And what is the nature of Jimmy Olsen, who is an adult with a job, and this high schooler? It's unclear at first. Later on, they're straight up kissing, though, so that's the thing.
He never quite got past Lois. Lois was not available. He has a thing now.
Apparently so, but they're at a Popeyes, which I would never have recognised in my youth because we never had Popeyes here. I think there's a few now because I actually ordered a Popeyes and tried a Popeyes last year for the one and only time I've done it. I thought it was too salty. I didn't like it very much. But
the biscuits, those things are crazy.
But they're at Popeyes and they're hanging out. Kara does her magic trick. She flies through a pipe and comes out wearing the schoolgirl uniform. And
you know, my wife was watching this on and off. She was not paying that much attention to it. She happened to look up just for that sequence of flying into the pipe, and she's like, that looked dumb. And I was like, look, it's all been looking a little dumb. We're doing our best here. But
you know, they noticed Ellis from Die Hard stumbling around in the street like an idiot because he's wandered into the main sort of part of town now. And they're like, hey, maybe we should help him. But Jimmy's like, hey, I'm Jimmy Olsen. Who are you? And she's like, I'm Kara. I mean, I care about this man over here.
Yeah. Which, to be fair, I appreciate the idea that she's not wrapped up in this new identity yet. Like, she still makes the tiny mistake of like, Linda Lee. That's my name, Linda Lee.
But they go into the Popeyes. We don't really get what they're saying because ultimately it doesn't really matter until Kara sees that there's more danger happening and they come back out. But the one little snippet we get is that she's looking at one of Lucy's friends who's got a tattoo in their arm, and you just hear Lucy say one line of dialogue, which is, "You've never seen a tattoo before, Linda?" And I'm like, and that's your fish out of water stuff kind of done, really. Yeah.
That's it. And the tattoo thing was the last thing she needed to fully acclimate to human society. She now understands everything.
Well, not everything, because later on when Zoltar says, where's the next train out of here, she goes, what's the train? So she's not quite grasped everything quite yet.
All right. She's close, though. She's close.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, though, what's so weird is this is kind of into fish out of water territory, I guess, to an extent. But later on, and not too much later, to be fair, it's when we get to the end of the set piece. But when Ellis / Ethan, or was it Ethan? Ethan. When he wakes up and he sees her, and he falls in love with Linda, because she switched back to Linda for that point. He goes in for a kiss, right? And she looks kind of like dumbfounded, but like she kind of likes it. She's kind of clearly like taken aback by it, but she's like, oh, that was something. Like, when she's touching her lips later, like, oh, it meant something. I like that. But she reacts to it like she doesn't know what a kiss is. And I'm like, Kara, you have parents who had sex to produce you. The concept of romance surely does exist in Argo City.
Yes. Okay. So this is always the weird thing. And this is in like any alien movie, anything that has like an alien culture, anything like that. It's always this weird thing of how much does the writer consider to be universal? How much is it a thing that like we don't need to explain romance because every culture will have romance, despite the fact that like maybe that is just a human thing. Like other species on the planet don't have romance. That's not a thing. So I get where it's coming from of like, oh, a kiss being foreign or whatever. But it's weird because the parts that we do see of Krypton is like, well, they clearly have marriage and they clearly have all this other stuff. So it doesn't seem that out of place.
Yeah, I mean, and not just in these movies, but although these movies are maybe the only relevant things, but like every version of Krypton I have ever seen has clearly had marriages and romance and those fundamentals. So it just felt like a weird moment.
Strangely enough, Man of Steel, who decided to do the whole thing of like, no, we don't have sex. We do the birthing matrix thing.
Well, to be fair,
whatever.
They do have sex. They just it's just not happening. They're all firing blanks. Is basically the problem, where they can't conceive, except Jor-El and Lara, who have super sperm. Which is why I don't really like that, because he was already special before he left Krypton. I don't like the idea of Superman being special by default.
No, he should definitely just be another Kryptonian for sure.
But anyway, so that's big set piece. So one of the magic things that happens with Selina is she basically accidentally creates like a TV of like following Ethan, because she's like, where is he? And like on the mirror, it just appears like a TV screen of like watching him stumble.
I swear to God, she literally just says, mirror, mirror on the wall, show me the hot guy. And like it does.
And then it disappears for a second, and they crack some jokes about, oh, the cable went out. And then she gets it back by holding up the Omegahedron at it. And this is the first time where it's gotten bigger as well, the actual Omegahedron hasn't, but the surrounding demon statue has gotten bigger.
It's absorbing some sort of negative energy, and it keeps getting bigger over the course of the movie.
As you do. So she is mad and says, I want him to be brought back to me, and does like a quick little spell-a-do to make that happen. And this is where we get into just the random shit, because she's not like she specifies something here. She just sort of vaguely says, hey, entity, bring him back. And that manifests as a big bulldozer tractor comes to life on its own, Christine style, and starts driving after him down the street. And it's when this gets kind of chaotic, where it's actually Lucy who tries to be a hero and runs up and jumps into the tractor and tries to like stop it from moving.
I love that from the viewpoint of like, okay, if Lucy's filling in as Lois, this is something that I feel like Lois would do. Like she goes in, the one thing that like a human is able to do, try to get control of this thing. However, two parts to that. First off, Jimmy Olsen being less than useless as he's just like standing around like, wow, look at all these pictures I'm taking. And then Lucy, God bless her, she's trying, but I guess she hits a rock, a very small pebble in the road, which causes the cabin of the thing to go shake slightly, and that's enough to knock her out. Yeah. She hits her head on the side, she's boop, I'm out.
Which does make me laugh, because when Supergirl, whips into action, she sort of deals with some of the chaos, because the tractor's like driven through like a petrol station, and there's a fire, and so she flies through a water tower, and that puts out the fire, and a couple other little things like that. But ultimately, by this point, Ethan has been scooped up, and I actually did love. There's one shot from inside the mouth of this tractor where it's like teeth going like this, trying to get to him.
Yeah,
which I thought was inventive. But
I like that shot, and then I like when he gets scooped up. They specifically show like it's mostly closed, but there are tiny gaps.
Yes,
that like are not big enough for him to fit through. But he does have one of his legs dangling out. And that's when Kara and them first notice from inside the Popeyes. They're like, what's going on over there? And you just see this one leg just dangling out of this thing. And it's clearly a prop, but I just loved it.
It's very like T-Rex having like eaten someone but not quite finished his meal yet. That's what it looks like. But
yeah,
you know, she basically dismantles the head of this grabber, right? The tractor off the rest of the vehicle and flies it off to like a field nearby. But I laughed a little bit because she just kind of doesn't seem to care about the fact that Lucy's unconscious in the driver's seat of this thing. And it does just slow down nice and conveniently so that it wouldn't hurt her. But I'm like, you have no way of knowing that wasn't just going to ram into a building and maybe kill her.
No. No, absolutely not. I have to imagine that it was just a matter she saw Lucy in there, didn't register that she was unconscious. And was just like, you got it, Lucy, and just flew off.
Like, you can hand wave this away by saying, it's literally the first time she's doing anything super heroic, so she's not as, aware of her surroundings, she's making mistakes. But none of this is intentional. This is just a writing flub.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So either way, Selena and the lackey, Bianca, they're both watching this through the mirror, and then they see, oh no, he first saw Linda, he first saw this girl.
Just after the fact, as it's happening, Selena's like, don't look at her. Don't look at her. Yeah. Don't you dare look at her.
Don't.
And then
stay drugged, goddammit. But then as he comes out, yes, he's in love with her, but also he's quoting Shakespeare sonnets now. So I guess it's a borderline intelligence boost as well.
Yeah, well, is anyone that dumb? Can they truly be in love? You know?
Yeah.
You have to understand love to some extent to feel it.
I feel like I get it from the viewpoint of, oh, he's now also impressive to her because he's hot and smart. But like, this is also a thing where once the potion wears off, while he may not be quoting Shakespeare anymore, he's not back to normal level dumbness either.
Also, Lucy happens to, as she's waking up, looks over and sees when he kisses her. And you think, that's going to come up later, right? She saw Linda kissing this hunky man. Never comes up once.
Do they? I might be just forgetting something here. Does Lucy ever meet Linda again?
She meets Supergirl, but not Linda.
Right. Yeah. That's by this point, I'm going to go ahead and say that if I was Lucy in this situation, I looked across after this whole big thing happened and I saw this young high school friend of mine making out with a much older man, and then she went missing. I feel like I've got some questions for the police now.
Yeah, that's a very good point. So obviously at this point, Selena's pissed. She's like, oh no, how dare this little student. I bet she's one of Nigel's students. So it'd just be like him to raise such a monster in his school system. I am going to send something after her. I'm going to send something that requires absolutely no visual effects after her. Yes. To be fair, I do think there's something cool about a kind of invisible giant demon. Like, so
I think it's cool in the way that they did it because they still did like the parting of the grass, the crunching of the cars, and like that made it work.
And the storm kind of brewing, and then ultimately you get kind of that. It's very Forbidden Planet where like a bit of electricity hits it, and you get like sort of the outline of it and the lightning, and like it was all kind of fun. It's random as hell. Like it's like it comes out of nowhere, and it's just another kind of random thing that Selena can do now. She's just like, I'm going to summon this thing and send it to her. So she sends it to the campus, right? And I guess they did set up. Most of the girls are away for the weekend because it's a long weekend, so there's not anyone else around. Supergirl's like, oh god, that kiss, I feel something. But then she notices all the turmoil outside and is like, okay, I'm going to go and see what's going on here. And gets knocked back into a car, gets whipped around a little bit. She straight up does like a hand up and says, do not pass and do no harm and leave this place at once.
And of course it doesn't respond. So I think after like the briefest of fight scenes, she grabs a pole, flies up into the storm, supercharges it with lightning, and that's enough. That's all it takes.
I would like to elaborate on this a little bit, because she grabs a lamppost, right? She breaks it off, she flies up, and it does look kind of cool actually, her going up into a lightning storm and just letting it be struck by lightning a bunch of times. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. What did she like stab it with a lightning rod effectively? Like what are we doing here? Mm-hmm. And she just kind of holds it in front of her when she comes back down, and lightning starts zapping out of it as if it's a lightning gun. And I'm like, okay, that doesn't make any sense, but
nope,
all right.
That's power now. The only other thing to mention just within this brief sequence is we get mentions of, I think her name was Cindy. I could be wrong. There's this hall monitor character, this dorm house mother, who they make a whole thing of like, yeah, she gets drunk like at every possible moment. You can just sneak out, whatever. And we see that as she's coming back in looking like Supergirl, she just gets criticized for wearing a costume, but we don't actually get her putting two and two together of, oh, Linda is Supergirl, because she's too wasted.
Yeah, she's too drunk to whatever. So yeah, I mean, basically she follows the bracelet looking for where the Omegahedron is, and is coming towards the amusement park. She actually gets to like the greater thing, because all these other rides are still there from this abandoned place. So there's like the wheels and the dodgems and whatever. I don't actually know what Americans call them.
Bumper cars.
Bumper cars, yeah, because that's what Ethan ends up in. Because Ethan is a part of this being in love is following Linda, because she's in her Linda outfit at this point. And he's following with like a heart-shaped boxes and some flowers, and he's all like fancy dressed, and he's like, oh, I'm following you because I love you. Let's sit down. Will you marry me? Like, he just goes straight for it.
If only you would say my name, I could die happy. Look, Ethan.
Right. And of course, like this entire time, Selina's got this power where she can just watch stuff happening, and because they detected someone coming in, they're like, wait, the dweeb we wanted to kill, but then Supergirl showed up. They haven't quite put it together yet. They do obviously later realize, oh wait, that is the dweeb and Supergirl the same person. That eventually becomes a thing, but right now they're like, wait, why is the dweeb showing up at our place all of a sudden? So,
well, either way, she's laying the moves down on my man, and I'm not going to pass the Bechdel test anytime soon, so let's get out there.
So yeah, we get the scene where she like uses her power. Kara turns out a Supergirl, and like Faye Dunaway's like.
Yeah, she uses the powers on like a tilt-a-whirl, like spinning it like super duper fast around, and then when it stops, she's nowhere to be found, which they don't question, and then Supergirl shows up and it's just like, hey, stop that, and she's like, no, and they just start fighting.
Yeah, Supergirl like throws a bunch of poles around her, and then Faye Dunaway uses her powers to just bend them all with her powers, with her mind.
Okay, yes, there is one other thing, which is Faye Dunaway puts out her arms and starts moving slowly left to right, and a ghostly trail of after images appear behind her. And I don't know what this was meant to do, because like there's only one solid version. The rest of them all look transparent. There's only one real one, and Kara doesn't even do anything with this. She eventually just flies away and then does the pole thing. So what was this trying to do?
I don't have anything. I don't know.
All right. Cool.
I got nothing. No.
It was just trying to get the visual effects money up a little bit higher.
I mean, ultimately, like, she ends up flying away with him in the bumper car, right? Like, he's like, kind of knocked out in the car. She's flying him away. And Faye Dunaway's left even more determined to take down Supergirl. And that's, and basically uses her powers now that she's getting more powerful and more confident with her powers. When Supergirl lands with Ethan and he tries to like talk to her and says, oh, I'm worried about Linda, I need to go back and try and get Linda, and she's like, no, I'll go back and save Linda, don't you worry about it, I just got you to safety, let me go back and deal with that. But he kind of realizes that it's Linda when he kisses her, and basically it's the Spider-Man thing, I can tell it's the same person with the kiss. But then he goes in for a second kiss, and she's like closing her eyes, and right then Selena uses her powers to snap him like back to her place.
Yeah, I do want to point out that on the other side of things, over with Selena, she had met back up with Nigel at this point, as they had planned to do. And he broke the love spell. He let the spider out of the nutshell or whatever, which when he came to, he's like, oh, where am I? What's going on? But he still loves Linda. Yeah. That's separate from the spell now.
Yeah, they call him in because they lost against Supergirl. I mean, Supergirl didn't take them out, but, they didn't beat her. So they call in Nigel reluctantly because, look, he's got experience with the magics and stuff. Let's get his expertise in there. And Faye Dunaway's like, look, I'll take you back if you help me with the magics. Go on, then.
I'll take you back if you bring me this man who I won't tell you what I want to do with, but trust me, it's not romantic, I guess.
So he whips out like a weird magic wand that looks tribal and is like, hey, use this in conjunction with your orb. And that basically just does the trick where it's like, it'll focus all your energies. You'll know what you're doing now. So he gets
teleported back onto the bed in chains.
Yeah, Ethan.
And it's like, this is exactly what I wanted.
So he's like helping Faye Dunaway because he's whipped like nobody's business. And when Supergirl comes to confront her, somehow, some way, with this magic power, you recognize, actually, first of all, she wants a better place to live, so a mountain appears instead of her stupid amusement park that's run down. Right?
I love that bit because it's just like we're still in town, everyone's still just recovering from like, oh no, all this chaos that happened yesterday, and then Jimmy just brings Lucy outside like, hey, a mountain just showed up with a castle on the top. That seems to be a thing that's a big deal.
She gave herself a ridiculous villain lair, and Supergirl flies into it, and very quickly, with this wand and the Omegahedron, somehow Faye Dunaway and or Nigel know what the Phantom Zone is. Because, don't get me wrong, the reveal when she steps forward and she can't move any further, and it's not until you get another shot where you realize there's kind of like a sort of shape of glass around her. It's not just an invisible wall.
It's the quadrilateral parallelogram thing.
And it's like, oh, we're doing Phantom Zone stuff here. I actually love the swing that she sent to the Phantom Zone and that we get to see the Phantom Zone. I actually kind of like that. The fact that these characters sent her there, now you could argue it's by accident, they didn't know what they were doing, but later on, Faye Dunaway straight up calls it the Phantom Zone and says, damn it, she got out of the Phantom Zone. I'm like, oh, so we just know about this, do we? Why do you know what the Phantom Zone is?
I would be fine with it if they called it like the other dimension, or if they called it like, the darkness area or something like that. Something of like, oh, us wizards and witches discovered this in our spell books as a separate plane.
Yeah, they've discovered it separately from us knowing it's the Phantom Zone, and they've got their own name for it, and it just happens to also be the Phantom Zone. Sure. Right. I could have went along with that, but no.
Yeah, but then the moment she says, "Oh, the Phantom Zone," it's like, well, now you just ruined it.
Yeah, you just know about this somehow. Even Superman, I don't even think knew that much about the Phantom Zone when Zod and that popped up in Superman 2.
Nope. He was to be fair, I don't think he would have much reason to. I don't feel like Jor-El's teachings would have been like, let me tell you about Space Jail that Daddy made.
So, yeah, she gets out of the Phantom Zone, and while she's in the Phantom Zone, this is some of the stuff that I'd forgotten about. I didn't remember a lot of this, which was Faye Dunaway basically has her own military with her powers, and she takes Jimmy and Lucy hostage because they're protest. Like, this is the wild thing, is that apparently it's progressed so much that Lucy and Jimmy are at a protest saying, like, we want rid of Selena. Selena's bad for everyone. And I'm like, how much time has passed that there's protests against her and her rule as dictator?
It simultaneously feels like a couple weeks and also 5 minutes.
Yes. So that's really funny to me. But I do kind of love how absurd it is that she's got Ethan in like a sort of fancy suede suit and got him all prettied up for her own amusement. She's made Nigel a prisoner with the others that she's kidnapped. And she's also just got a map of like the planet out. And she's like, okay, by Tuesday, we should have both Canada and Mexico in addition to the US. And I'm like, oh, she's got big plans.
I also like that she's looking out over her foyer and she's like, I think we could do something here. And she makes dangling cages from the ceiling and then teleports in Jimmy, Lucy, and Nigel, to which Nigel says something, and then Lucy's like, I think that's my math teacher. And that's the only, like, that almost makes it all worth it. I'm okay. That line is just so out of place that I'm almost okay with it.
Yeah, the only relevance here really to him even being around is that when Supergirl is back and fighting Faye Dunaway later, he gives like a bit of advice that I don't even think made much sense to me in the moment, but seems to have helped her. So it's like he knows things, so he helped by the end. Whatever. So that's what's going on in the real world while Supergirl's in the Phantom Zone. But I did like how the Phantom Zone looked. It looked desolate. It looked, this dark, like kind of imagine like Mars, but it's like all just kind of much grungier. Yeah. It's not red, it's more black, and
there's like sludge piles and like constant storms on the horizon.
Yeah, she falls into sludge. I thought she was going to go all never-ending story and sink away forever.
You gotta get up, Artax. Get out of the sludge.
But a mysterious figure shows up to help her, and would you believe it, her mentor Zoltar is here. And he saves her, but then it turns out he's turned into a bit of a drunken here, because he keeps having the squirt, which you presume is some kind of alcoholic concoction that he's come up with or found, but he keeps drinking the squirt.
And he offers up to her. She takes like one mouthful. It's like, oh my god, that's the grossest thing I've ever had in my life.
And every time she's like, hey, can we find a way out of here? Is there any hope? He's like, it's very difficult. It's almost like not going to, there's almost a guarantee it won't work. How about we just have some squirt instead? Have some squirt. Go on, you'll like it eventually.
It almost made me think that we were going to do something like nefarious with Zoltar. Like the fact that he kind of blames Kara for the fact that he was put in the Phantom Zone, and like this is him trying to get like some low-level revenge on her, but no, he's genuinely supportive right up to the end.
Yeah, she basically just like says like, "Hey, I believe in you. You can do it. Let's go do it." And he's like,
"All right, we almost certainly will die." And she's like, "Better than the Phantom Zone, right?" And he's like, "Yeah."
Yeah. So it turns out you just have to like walk towards this hole in the sky to get out of the Phantom Zone.
All right. Can I just like look? We know in the Batman universe, getting out of Arkham is basically as easy as just like signing out on a guest checklist. Like it's pretty easy. The Phantom Zone, I feel like, has always been the one thing of nah. You're stuck there. You're stuck there until like something major happens. And to just say, no, all they got to do is the end of Dark Knight Rises. That's it. They just got to do that.
They just got to climb. Yeah, and to be fair, like, it's a bit windy, but they're doing all right. The only reason why it gets more difficult is because Selina like gets an inkling that something's happening, and they start looking at it with her powers. So she starts sending fireballs down the shaft at them, and tornadoes.
She's sending fireballs. The fireballs like kind of knock Zoltar off his balance a little bit, so he has to like cling hold of Kara. I love there's a moment where he is holding on for dear life onto the back of her. And she has the gall to look over her shoulder and say, "You gotta come with me." And he's like, "I am. I'm not going anywhere. Why would you think I'm letting go?" But then, yeah, it was later on, the storm, this little hurricane thing that's in this tunnel, ends up spinning around, catches Zoltar, and he's like, "I'll be with you," as he fades into nothingness.
Yeah, basically as I will always be with you, Kara. Very Obi-Wan of him. And she, I mean, I do like there's like this shot at the end of this when she gets to sort of the top and she's in silhouette and she sort of stands up kind of all powerful and because she's not had powers in here, right? They made that clear right away when she landed. She tried to fly and she just fell like an idiot. So
yeah, she scratched her hand, there was blood, and she's like, "Oh god, no one's ever made me bleed my own blood."
But she stands up, main theme starts to play, she flies out of the mirror, because that's where she comes out. And we have her showdown, which is kind of a weird mix of things where Faye Dunaway just does a bunch of different tricks. Like one is to make all the floor kind of start to like rock around in all these different squares as if it's like, I don't know, rumbling. And that knocks her off her balance a little bit. Even though like she can fly, she could just hover above it.
I was going to say, oh no, I'm hovering 2 inches higher and nothing is now affecting me.
Yeah, the demon thing she made that was invisible earlier seems to appear behind her at one point and actually grabs Kara. And they try and do this thing where it's like it's sort of like in its hands and like she's been pulled from side. God, yeah. But the effect is just them stretching the visuals, so it just looks like a warped effect. And I'm like, this doesn't work. This is weird, whatever you're doing here to try and show this off.
I think it would have been fine if it were like more twisty. But it was literally just askew. It was just like, all right, we're going to crunch it in this direction, stretch it in this direction. Yep. That's it.
Yeah, the one that got me though is that when she gets out of this and because she hears Zoltar's voice say, "I'm with you, Kara, remember," and she gets out of it, she does a thing where she tornadoes around Faye Dunaway to kind of win.
Right.
But weirdly, if you're paying attention, the red blur that kind of indicates that it's her, because the red's the cape, obviously blurring around as she goes fast, it gets oddly small, like she's 10 inches tall as she flies around her really quickly. I thought that was very strange.
No, that was when we were talking about the fashion change thing. That's the power set that comes up pretty often of like, okay, this is weird, but like it almost doesn't even feel like a power thing. It just feels like the filmmaker's doing something. This one is a power, and it's visually and logically just completely nonsensical. Of like, why is she 10 inches tall?
Yeah, I'm not even sure if that's what's meant to be happening. It just looks like it.
It goes back to the first Superman movie of like, what exactly is he doing? Are we saying that he's flying so fast that he is literally like going through time, or is he like turning back the Earth physically, which somehow translates to time going backwards? I feel like it's the same thing here, where it's like, is she actually shrunken down and is making a tornado, or is that just a visual representation of she's going so fast and we didn't want to bother showing her full scale?
I don't even know. I don't know. But
I'm leaning towards the latter, but it's not good visual wise.
No. It just feels like a bunch of random things until eventually she stands tall in victory and the main theme plays. And it's a whole thing where like everyone gets out their cages, Lucy and Jimmy kiss, and basically Ethan looks at her, and Ethan kind of helped because he like got to the omegahedron and closed the dog thing, so it gave her a chance in the moment.
Look, the entire rest of the movie, obviously she's got her bracelet. She's trying to find the omegahedron, but I swear to God, between everything else that happened, this is the first time where it felt like there was any sort of urgency where she's like, I gotta go. I can't stay. I'm sorry. I gotta leave and take this thing back to Argo City.
Yeah, and Ethan's kind of like, hey, I'll explain to them about who Linda is and why she's not here anymore, because he's figured out who's who. And she's like, thank you. And she flies off. And the movie ends with her flying into the ocean, and we just see a shot of her going towards Argo City, which would imply that, one, she's made it in time and everyone's not dead, but it's like, so all she had to do to get back is fly into the ocean? Like, that's it? That gets her into inner space?
There's the issue of there's no portal. Like, obviously, to get from Argo City into our world, we had that whole like sequence with the bubbles and all that stuff. This one, they just say, yeah, we don't need to do the reverse of that. She goes in, you assume there's a portal, but we don't actually get to see that. And because Argo City is just floating in an inky blackness, it does kind of seem like, oh, it's just at the bottom of this ocean. It's Atlantis.
Yeah. And also, you know, she's still flying towards it, and I'm like, she still has her powers. Like, now that she's went through this portal to get to Argo, like, it just doesn't make any sense. It's just lazy.
Residual yellow energy, whatever.
It's just a bunch of lazy, like, it would have been nice to see her parents maybe be happy she's back and have her stand tall in the outfit and them all look at her and be like, whoa, you're wearing like the full color set of the outfit here, like, you know. Yeah.
Wow, Kara, you are more responsible than we gave you credit for in the beginning, where you were acting very irresponsibly. We have given you a character arc.
Yeah. Nope. And obviously, if this had been successful, there would have been sequels, and it would have been like, hey, I'm going to go to Earth. Now I can come and go as I please, because I'm the one who was given... Because, it like, obviously we know it's not, because Superman exists, and we understand why they have powers, but it almost feels the way it's presented in this movie, that she basically was given them from the orb that she traveled in to go to Earth, and now she just has them permanently everywhere. That's what it feels like, the way the movie kind of presents it, without saying anything.
No, that honest to God, I feel like that fits more with the idea of he wrote Masters of the Universe. Like, that feels like it's in that exact same sort of lineage.
It does, yeah. No, there's comparisons there. That's at least, I mean, the plots are kind of wild and all over the place and don't make much sense, but there is plot here at least. You know, there's things happening, which is the opposite of Masters of the Universe, but... And
that's what I'm saying, like, at the very beginning, there's something here. There is a charm to it. It doesn't feel like this was made just for the sake of making a quick buck. It doesn't feel like this was made for people who actively were working against the Supergirl mythos just to tell their own thing, or like, you know, an exec thought that something would work better. it feels like there's something here. It was just so unbaked. It was just unfinished in like we needed 3 more drafts and maybe 2 more months of filming, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's... Look, it's the first ever big female superhero movie. It is definitely a whiff, and the fact that it is so aggressively like, oh, it's going to devolve into the female hero and villain fighting over a hunky man. It just reeks of a bunch of men wrote this, or one man at least wrote this, and you know the fact that it cannot pass the Bechdel test, even though there's numerous pairs of female characters having conversations in this movie, and it can never do it because they're always talking about a man, is kind of wild. Which, don't get me wrong, I don't think that test is like a foolproof thing, because, like, you know, if you've got like a movie that's only one character, right, that's a woman, is it really right to say that, oh, this movie isn't a good female, like, I don't know, story, because there's only, well, she's only a character, so technically it fails the test on a technicality, but it's not.
No. It's to be taken in the same way as like BMI. Like the BMI sort of stuff, it's like, look, for the average person, you take the height and the weight and you divide it and you get the thing. But like, if you take BMI for someone like in his prime Arnold Schwarzenegger, it would say that he was morbidly obese.
Sure.
But obviously that's an outlier.
Yeah, but the point I'm making here, though, is that this movie is a culprit of exactly what the Bechdel test is trying to point out.
Yes, absolutely.
This is a prime example of it. So, I mean, it is what it is. It's weird. It makes some wild choices that kind of feel like a knock-on effect of some of the weird choices that even the Superman movies had already made, but they're even more amplified because this is even a bit more schlockier than those at this time. And on top of that, early 80s and, you know, like the respect given to the source material, how locked in was some of the source material at this point versus what we all kind of assume is the ironclad version of it today. You know, there's all these factors that just make it feel like there's a lot of weird things going on in here.
I just from my understanding, and again, I'm not super familiar on Silver Age, Bronze Age stuff when it comes down to Supergirl, but from my understanding, the lore was more or less in place of what we think of with Supergirl. The primary difference was when she came back post-crisis, that's where we got the more angry at the world sort of thing. Like, back before then, she was more lighthearted, more like, oh, hey, what a fun adventure, we're doing whatever. It was only after we were like, hey, maybe the fact that she was entirely sentient and aware of the fact of her planet dying would mess her up a little bit. That's what came in like the mid-2000s. Yeah,
it is good to actually give her, you know, some more distinct character features that make her a little bit different to Superman. So yeah, and we're definitely going to see some of that in the new movie. I suspect that given the fact that the new movie is set almost entirely in space with her doing her own thing, like there's going to be almost no plot like comparisons between the two.
No, I would imagine that we might get, you know, Argo City. We're going to get Zor-El and stuff like that. But if the only thing I could see is an offhanded mention, just for the sake of why not, is, oh, yes, Argo City, founded by Zoltar or something like that. Just a name drop or something like that.
Yeah. Do you think it's going to be Argo, though? Do you not think it's just going to be Kandor that's that we see in the flashbacks?
I don't know, because if it's Kandor, that raises the idea that Kandor still exists. It's going to be the Bottle City.
Well, that's my assumption based on the trailer, is that this is going to be the Bottle City.
Maybe. It's look, they're playing differently with the stuff. Obviously, there's been hints of Brainiac, and that's obviously going to bring out all this other stuff.
There is a shot in the trailer that looks like the city's been bottled to me. Now, I could be misreading it, but
it's entirely possible. I know that I don't know about current continuity, but continuity that I've read up, Argo City did use similar technology to separate itself from Krypton to like survive slightly differently. So we might be hinting on that sort of stuff. But again, it's a whole new universe. Like we could do whatever the hell we feel like in terms of whether it's going to be Argo or Kandor or anything like that.
I'm just wondering if they go with Kandor just to merge like Supergirl's city with the bottled stuff for later Brainiac purposes.
I mean, it would make sense. The only thing that I question with that is that it would I feel like from a character perspective, temper her rage. Like if she lost her entire family, that's different than her family's there. They're just really tiny.
Sure. I guess I'm also assuming that everyone dies though. She clearly thinks her world is gone. Maybe it'll turn out to not be as true as she thinks if the city's bottled, but does seem to think that all of her world is dead.
Possible.
Yeah. Maybe it'll be the sort of thing where she knows that her city might be bottled somewhere, but she knows for a fact that her parents didn't make it. Maybe they got trapped on the outside of the bottle during all the chaos or something. I don't know.
Yeah, that's possible.
But regardless,
we'll find out in a week or 3 days.
Yep, we'll find out very soon and see what they do with the new movie. But there you go. That's Supergirl. All right. Well, we're left with one task, which is to rate Supergirl out of 10. What are you giving it, David?
Felt pretty confident in my rating going in, and I still feel pretty confident now. This just feels like prime 6 territory to me. This is, like I said, it has some charm to it. It's not something that's completely devoid of any sort of enjoyability, but it's a mess in a lot of ways, and the charm can only get it so far. I think that if you were much more attached to this character, like if this were, we were very excited before James Gunn's Superman of like, Superman's finally back. Hopefully he nails it and all that. And we were really hoping that it was a good thing. If this were the kind of caliber of like, Supergirl's finally brought to the screen. I can't wait to see her coming up. And then you got this, I think you'd be heavily disappointed. But looking back on it now, it's by far and away not the worst possible thing we could have gotten because Catwoman exists, and that's where that is.
Catwoman was much worse. We did that in Extra Reels this month. I'll explain what Extra Reels is in a minute, but we did that, and it's much worse than Supergirl by an incredible distance. Yeah, I mean, I think it was a different time. Expectations were different. The idea of getting like a good, solid movie that's an adaptation of a comic book was, Superman was good. Obviously, people liked that, but it wasn't like all of a sudden, this is like prime territory. It took another 20, 30 years before more consistent comic book adaptations started being a thing. And then also, it's kind of like no one was happy with Batman and Robin in 1997, right? Everyone thought it was terrible. But you can kind of appreciate it for being a cheesy thing now. You can appreciate it as like, this is a cheesy ass movie that's silly. You can laugh at the one-liners and the jokes, and you can enjoy the campiness of it. Like, I would be mad as hell if the next Batman movie reminded me of Batman and Robin, but it's now, nearly 30 years old. I can enjoy it as a relic of a different time in a way. And that's kind of where part of the enjoyment of this comes in. Now, it's interesting you give it a 6 because I'm going to give it a 6, and I feel like we're probably rating it higher than most people do. I at least have the nostalgia to blame though for that. You are just, I don't know, delusional.
Oh yeah, no, I have no idea. I clicked over to IMDb just to be like, well, we can't be that far off the mark, and they give it essentially a 4.5. So I feel like the difference comes in at the level of where we see like super big plot holes of what's going on there. We can at least somewhat fill it in with like, but comic book weirdness also exists. And we can just like brush off a lot more than your average audience member probably can.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I rated the script as harsh as the IMDb rating is, and I think that is a very fair thing to rate it. But it's, I think all the other elements are perfectly solid. Not amazing by any stretch, but perfectly solid enough in terms of, it looks fine, it sounds fine, the acting is fairly fine across the board. Everything's pretty fine. Added a bit of nostalgia and charm for this movies of this era, and I think you've got an okay watchable movie, even if it is objectively not good.
Right.
So, there you go. That's where I'm coming from with Supergirl. As for it making the cut, I mean, I think we have to say it doesn't, but,
Yeah, I debated as I was watching it. I'm like, is this cutting it close? But no, it's just cut from the collection. But I don't think it's anywhere near cut your losses either.
No. This is an objective cut from the collection, but it's not one that's that unpleasant. So,
no.
Again, take that for what you will. But as previously mentioned, next episode later this week is going to be Supergirl from this year, the new one, and we'll see how that shapes up. So Exciting times. So yeah, you can support the Collector's Cut and all the other shows we do on Male Fuzz Movies, like the Atomic Cinema Experiment, our sci-fi podcast that we do, which will be getting 2 episodes next week with no Collector's Cut to make up for the fact that Collector's Cut's getting both slots this week. Just pointing that out while I remember. But yeah, you can support it over at patreon.com/MaleFuzzTV, get access to the Ratings Rundown segments where we sort of run down, you know, what we give the visuals out of 10, the sound, the acting, that kind of thing. You get access to that for each episode of both this and Ace. Plus, we do a monthly show called Extra Reels where we review some of the worst movies ever made. The last episode being Catwoman from 2004. So you can go check out that. But thanks to everyone who supports us. It really does make it possible. But that is the show. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We do appreciate it. Keep watching movies, and if you didn't get it, it's always nice to have diplomatic immunity.